It is a tale as old as time. Forces of dark stand sovereign over the land. Crops are failing. People are rioting. Times are bleak. But as it was always written, a hero shall arise. Lord Dracule, Prince of Shadows, your time is nigh, as a noble soul has stepped forward to walk around aimlessly and peel coins off the street. Hello everyone. If I sound different than last time, that is because time has passed, and although entropy is the enemy of us all, I am powerless to defend against the callous march of Cronus, commander of the Titans. Vampire Survivors is a video game developed by indie studio Ponkel. Allegedly fun, according to the devs, I find it to be objectively enjoyable. Presented as a bullet hell game, Vampire Survivors situates you from a top-down perspective to face absolute hordes of projectiles in the shape of every mythological creature and horrible beast thought up by the nitric oxide-addled brains of people living before electricity. The gameplay is deceptively simple. Walk around aimlessly as your attacks automatically set upon the crowds in your proximity. As time goes on, these crowds will wax or wane with the gradual introduction of stronger enemies. The sheer volume of antagonistic minions eventually adopts the fluid behavior of a landslide, and your movement becomes more similar to swimming or a kind of extended suspension within the flow of ghoulies. You are charged with stopping said ghoulies utilizing an abundant appliance of physical encouragement. When you slay your foes, they drop special little gems that grant you XP for leveling up. Upon leveling, the roguelite tag kicks in as you get a few items to choose from an extensive pool of mystical artifacts. Items are your core method of surviving the vampire. You get 6 slots each for weapons and passive weapons, which can be upgraded throughout your run. Each adds an additional, unique layer of attack to help repel the swarming hell rapidly approaching your person. Needless to say, these visually and auditorily add up. Eventually, the sounds of gems, leveling, monsters, and even the music will give way to the rhythm of you enforcing your personal NAP. Alongside your personal orchestra of violence are the visual effects which grow with your arsenal. In a typical run, the last 5 minutes reward you with a barely decipherable cacophony of visual stimuli that helps in protecting your ability to practice respiration. Continuing to breathe is important so that you can watch the timer at the top of the screen reach the 30-minute mark. Lasting to that point rewards you with a comfortable and financially secure retirement as the specter of death tucks you into bed. Until then, you can search between couch cushions and vaporize every candelabra you see in order to collect the golden coins hidden within them. Extra loot like chests and gold rush events can provide additional assistance in getting your money up. Your net worth can then be invested toward permanent upgrades across all your runs, unlocking characters, and shady dealings under the moonlight. Speaking of characters, there are many to choose from. Each has their own configuration of stats, starting weapon, and special passive effect that can involve leveling or other distinct caveats. Some prime examples include Antonio Belpaese, the legally distinct Gary Castlevania who is first on the list and provides a solid damage buff. Pretty straightforward, and honestly I don't have much to say about him. Porta, whose low starting cooldown and permanent boost to area of attack makes them exceptionally fun to play in my opinion. Taking the candelabra and extending the area of attacks through esoteric astrological methods makes my central nervous system grin ear to ear. And Giovanna, who starts with my least favorite weapon. I don't care if it's one of the best scaling in the game, no amount of build potential is worth 10 to 15 minutes of upset feline ASMR to me. Plus, they eat health drops and have friendly fire enabled. I simply can't condone this level of griefing when it is happening to me specifically. Other honorable mentions based upon the extensive lore of vampire legend, the genre surrounding it, and the Italian language include Pascalina, Cleici, Christine, a dog, Space Dude, Santa, and many more. In your fights to outlast the clock, you'll find yourself in various locales rife with armies of ghouls that want you deceased. The forest, the library, the bone zone, and the Dairy Factory are some of the places where you'll be kickstarting your lucrative local lawn mowing business. In these idyllic settings, you'll face a variety of enemies such as werewolves, witches, robots, skeletons, scarletons, scalino, foliage, and bats. A profound volume of bats. I mentioned weapons earlier, but I left out evolutions. As you upgrade your primary armaments in a run, you can eventually evolve them, given you have a passive item that coordinates with that particular weapon. These evolutions can drastically alter the way your weapon functions, typically in a good way. You could gain a critical chance and health absorption for the whip, change the falling axe into a radial scythe effect, transform a dove into a UH-60 Blackhawk, and the pentagram into tinnitus after 20 minutes of sustained gameplay. This gives depth to the RNG of acquiring items, as you'll need to carefully choose which holy utility you pick up to ensure that your desired evolutions are possible later in the run. The evolution system encourages experimentation with different builds for discovering the synergy between weapons and passives. Over time, you'll learn more synergies and unlock more things that build upon each other in a very streamlined manner. Some runs can fall into a routine later on, but it's a well thought out one that thrives off of your personal meta-knowledge of the game. Each stage allows you to apply this knowledge towards countering its particular enemies and events with your build. If you're lucky and clever enough, you might be able to forego the routine entirely and slap your loadout together on your own terms. Before this, you can use tools such as Banish, Reroll, and Skip that allow you to lean your run towards a particular build or style of gameplay. These methods allow you to buy time while you wait for fortune to smile and let you draw the specific weapon you need to complete a set. When you shallow the treasure pool, you can eliminate unwanted items in order to bring you closer to more preferable weaponry, such as garlic. Let's take a moment to talk about garlic. The origin of Allium sativum is a contentious topic, but sources state that its domestication began around 4000 BCE, with early remains and mentions being founded in ancient China, Babylon, Egypt, and many more places across the Old World. In numerous cultures, garlic is considered to be a ward against demons, werewolves, evil spirits, and most notably, vampires. I mention all of this to strengthen my case for garlic being the best item in the game. There are whispers in the Vampire Survivors community that garlic is a trap for new players, that it is an overrated item indicative of someone lacking real knowledge of this game and its mechanics. Despite this, I believe it to be the optimal weapon for combating the undead. Mechanically, having a damaging aura in a game all about crowd control is an amazing deal that some would say is too good to be true, but Occam's razor slices clean through the cloves of denial when you have evolved your bulb through pickling and now wield the evil garlic. Moving on from onion adjacent topics, there is a large list of objectives for you to complete with a massive number of different unlockable content for the game. As you work through this itinerary, the game increasingly bestows fun mechanics and new content upon you, like new weapons, the randomazo, and hyper mode. After a certain point, you'll likely encounter the many secrets hidden in the game. When you start digging, the layers peel back more and more even after you. Vampire Survivors provides an absolutely banging take on old arcade-era chiptune sound design and music. It fully utilizes the simple 8-bit audiovisual presentation in a way that continues to surprise me over and over again. The crispy, bit-crushed ethos of the sound effects gives a satisfying feel to just about every aspect of the game. Sparks, explosions, or the wind passing by a traditionally melee-style weapon all give the soundscape its own place in the weight a specific build can have. As with all things, however, some are less enjoyable than others. You even have the option to blast process certain game sounds, which adds the gameplay feature of getting jump scared when you level up. I am a big fan of the soundtrack as well. The upbeat, dramatic 80s synth orchestra combination couples with the arcade-like graphic style to emulate the feeling of overcoming insurmountable odds and facing a great force of evil. Now, Vampire Survivors isn't the deepest game out there, but many people like myself feel pulled to it, addicted, if you will. How could such a simple game have its hooks so deep in my soul? What draws me to the flame of single-stick shooter gameplay? This is why Opening a treasure chest in this game is an entire event that is surgically designed to light my neurons up like a rat driving a car for the first time. I know it's brain rot, but the feeling of lucky rolling a 5-item chest early on and snowballing has a certain effect on the mind. It is difficult to describe in words, so please, consult the visual. The developer used to work on slot machine games, and you can feel it heavily in this area. You might get the impression that this means the gameplay loop leans on luck, but I'd argue otherwise. The further you dive into the game's mechanics and unlocks, the more that death becomes a skill issue. At every other corner, there is an opportunity to break the game, and when you think that you've shattered the mechanics of this game that can be played just as effectively with one finger as it can with an entire hand, it gives you something new that takes it even further. The best part is that it guides you towards this direction. The game's unlocks and achievements are designed for you to fully utilize and experience those exploitable corners of the gameplay fundamentals. Learning the meta of Vampire Survivors just so happens to be the core gameplay loop. The base game already stands strong on its own with an unbelievable amount of content and fundamentals, but there is even more despite this. Vampire Survivors hosts a variety of DLC that is extensive in the substance it brings and is reasonably priced, which is a strange and alien concept to someone like me. These add new maps, a lot of weapons, music, characters, and if you can catch it on sale like I did, the bundle for the entire game is roughly $10, which is a steal for the massive amount of video game you get for that price. In conclusion, I like this game. The unassuming graphics and generous price hide an immense wealth of content. It is an easy recommendation from me. I would absolutely shut my brain off for 30 minutes and self-induce eye fatigue again. Thank you for watching everyone, and take care.